Welcome to Business Live Extra, the show that focuses on business leaders and entrepreneurs. Going into business on your own can be a challenge at the best of times. In this week's episode, we're talking to a woman on a mission to help social impact entrepreneurs scale their businesses. A woman known as a disruptor for good. She's a CEO with significant experience in developing successful companies. She's completed her studies at Toronto University, TU, and then spent a year living and working in South Korea. She has a background in marketing. In 2015, she created an online summit bringing together web business owners. She then left the corporate world and created a group called the Female Entrepreneurs Lounge. Now she fuses together three of her passions: tech, entrepreneurship, and the Caribbean. That's right, our guest today is Lauri-Ann Ainsworth, CEO of the Branson Center. Laurie, great to have you to Business Live Extra.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
So, Laurie, you know, it's such a unique thing. We're actually having Branson Center, which is a charitable foundation.
Right.
You know, business, you know, and yourself, you know, on this show. You know, who is Laurie? Tell us about yourself.
Sure, okay, so it's about me today. Most people, every time they hear Branson Center, they ask about Richard, right? But I am a mother, first and foremost. I have two beautiful children. I am a wellness person.
You have a pigeon pair or
yes,
two boys,
I
two
do.
girls,
A girl and a boy. A girl and a boy. Actually, my boy turns 5 in 2 days, so very excited about that.
All right.
My most important job. Outside of that, I am, as you said, the CEO of the Branson Center for Entrepreneurship, a job that I love. Love what I love what I do because I love helping entrepreneurs. I love to see persons with ideas grow and scale and support themselves, their families, and the community. And of course, I'm also into wellness. I'm a big wellness advocate. I'm a yoga teacher.
Were you always into wellness, or is that something, you know, relatively new?
That is something new. And new, when I say new, I mean like the last 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
And it's something that came about with my own little breakdown and burnout. I was in the corporate world. I worked at many corporate institutions doing marketing. As you said, my background is in marketing. I was a marketing manager, dealing with the stresses of regular corporate world. And then I became a mother. And that's a whole other stress, right? So I became a mother, and I also started to pursue my passion of being an entrepreneur. And so I started my own business, my own consulting firm. And the stress of having a 9-to-5 job, going home to a baby, a newborn, as well as at night trying to build a business. And I think this is something that most entrepreneurs can resonate with.
And is that like Laurie's side hustle right now? You know, the wellness programs, the yoga?
Well, you know what? I've moved away from saying side hustle because I think that when we do these things, it's our passion and it's something that we want to grow into something even bigger. Some people call it a hobby. And I think once you move from hobby to something that you're building and you're growing, it no longer becomes a hobby or a side hustle. It's, you know, another aspect of you. So it's not my side hustle, but it's a part of me. And
do you charge for it, or is it a hobby, or is it something that you're actually looking to grow as a business?
Something that grows as a business, absolutely. Okay. So I'm an entrepreneur. You know, first and foremost, I'm an entrepreneur. Even though we support, I'm an enabler of entrepreneurs as well. So it's definitely something that I'm growing as a business, and it's the two sides of me. I'm multi-passionate, but my duality is being in the business world, supporting entrepreneurs and enabler, and in my wellness world. And as I was getting to is the fact that I had my own meltdown, trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to be all of these things. And I realized that the only way I could really succeed at anything is if I really slowed down and decided to take care of me.
So the wellness side, is that what has kept your life balanced, you'd say?
Absolutely. Wellness and productivity. So, and I say those two things because I don't want to give the impression that, you know, what's important is to go home and meditate and do some yoga and then everything will work out well for you in your business. Not true.
How do you know, because the phrase side hustle has become so popular, even in Jamaica with entrepreneurs, how do you keep yourself kind of motivated then, or working with entrepreneurs in your ecosystem, you know, their language, you know, your lingo, you know, how do you juggle that?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because you have entrepreneurs of all walks of life and at different stages. And at the Branson Center, we're supporting entrepreneurs who are at a different stage of their lives and their businesses. They're not in the side hustle mode right now.
Okay.
There's, in the entrepreneurship world, we talk about a startup is not a business. A startup is an entrepreneur looking for a business because you're trying new things and you're trying to validate. The entrepreneurs that we support at the Branson Center are those who have found that thing that's working and it's been validated and now they're looking to grow it.
So they've found their passion already before they get in.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily their passion because not all of the entrepreneurs want to do this forever. Some of them are looking for that exit, but they've built something to the point where the dedication is there. And they don't view it as a side hustle.
And do you have to be a millennial to get into the Branson Center?
Absolutely not.
Or you can be any age?
You can be any age.
Okay.
And actually, what we found in the ecosystem is that the best entrepreneurs are those who are coming out of corporate.
Right.
Those who are like in their late 30s, 40s.
Right.
Even later, who have been able to develop a skill being in the corporate world and have taken that skill and maybe paired it with another person who has another skill that's complementary, and those are the best entrepreneurs.
Right. And all these, one thing in these different spaces, all these buzzwords like ecosystem and everything, what is the ecosystem?
The ecosystem is everyone who's playing a role to help move entrepreneurship and someone with an idea and through the process to becoming a real player in our economy. So those who are enabling, like ourselves, the Branson Center, who's an accelerator, and the incubator, who's preparing the entrepreneurs to come to the Branson Center, the banks for financing, mentors who are supporting. Everyone plays a role. It's a village that has to be there to support entrepreneurs so that we can grow this economy. So that's why we refer to it as an ecosystem.
So these are like accountants, attorneys, it could be funders, anybody.
Absolutely, everybody, exactly. So, the Branson Center is one part of that. And that's why I think it's important that we call it an ecosystem, because we have to recognize that we're not competing with each other. We're supporting and we're creating pipelines to move our entrepreneurs into the next phase of support so that they can go on to create amazing businesses that will hire more Jamaicans, more Caribbean nationals, because it's not just Jamaica. We support entrepreneurs around the region.
You do? Are there Branson centers in other islands or just Jamaica?
So we're headquartered here in Jamaica. So we actually had an office in the BVI, the British Virgin Islands, where our founder, Richard Branson, lives.
That's where his island is.
Yes, that's where his island is, Necker Island. So we had opened up a branch there, but of course when the hurricanes hit, it devastated the BVI, and we had to move that operation. So we're located here in the Caribbean, but thanks to technology, we are still able to support entrepreneurs all around the Caribbean.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, is it competitive? Is it about collaboration, or is it about I need to win if I'm in the program for the year, or what's the vibe like?
It's absolutely collaboration, and I think that's the amazing thing about our entrepreneurs and having a cohort. So we do cohorts, and the cohorts are like, here's this group of people who all have their own businesses, but they are supporting each other. We don't have a lot of businesses that are competitors, and we look for that when we're choosing entrepreneurs to come into our program, so that we don't have that competition. So what we do have is collaboration. We have synergies being formed. We have relationships. And as a matter of fact, that's one of the best things that our entrepreneurs can come out of the program with, that kind of camaraderie with each other. Yeah.
And you don't find, as Jamaicans, we're very resilient, but we're very competitive too.
Yes,
you don't find someone coming into the program, whether it was years ago or now, says, I want to win and I want to go meet Richard Branson, or do you have persons in your cohorts who ask that when they jump in, or?
Yes, absolutely. Most people who become involved with the Branson Center in any way, shape or form want to meet Richard. And I understand why, of course, but
they might think they can get $1 million US or even $10 million US for their business,
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, and there are people like that. So, the fact is, Richard Branson started the Branson Center, and he is, one of the most well-known entrepreneurs out there.
When did the center get started in Jamaica?
2011.
Okay.
Yeah, in 2011, Richard came to Montego Bay and opened the center, and in 2017, we moved to Kingston because 70% of our entrepreneurs were here in Kingston. And so we decided to shift gear and come to Kingston. And here
Great.
we are.
All right, we're going to talk all about that move and the shift to Kingston when we get back.
Okay.
And we take our first break on Business Live Extra. We're talking to Lauri-Ann Ainsworth, CEO of the Branson Centre. We'll hear all about the company when we return. Welcome back to Business Live Extra. We're talking to Lauri-Ann Ainsworth, CEO of the Branson Centre, a leading business accelerator in the region. The organization has been in operation since 2011. The focus is on the triple Ps: people, planet, profit. It started out in Montego Bay as a resource for startups. Now it's headquartered in Kingston, where the focus is on scaling up. The centre has an enviable investment pipeline, which includes NCB, Proven Investments, Panjam Investment, GK Capital, and Norbert Capital Partners. Let's hear more now from the CEO, Lauri-Ann Ainsworth. Lauri-Ann, welcome back.
Thank you.
How many team players? I mean, how many staff does Branson Centre have to support you?
Right now we have 5 full-time and 2 part-time team members. So we're a small team.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell us more about yourself. I mean, you went to University of Toronto.
Yes.
But before that, where did you jump into high school?
Sure. So I went to St. Andrew High.
Okay. So you're an Andrews girl?
Yes, I'm an Andrews girl.
Do you get that a lot?
Yes, of course. We're taught you start with St. Andrew.
Okay.
So you start with St. Andrew High, and then, yes, I'm an Andrews girl.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm very proud.
Do you, from back then to now, I mean, where did the passion hit you, or the bug that you wanted to, help Jamaicans or help people and, jump into this ecosystem that you talk about?
Yeah, well, I grew up in a single-parent household. I grew up with my mom, and there were 4 of us, and I saw where entrepreneurship could be an avenue that people can self-actualize through. Like, you can create for yourself a life that you want if you're able to create a business. You don't have to be restrained by a corporate job. Not that all corporate jobs are, have to be restrained, but I think that if you have a passion and corporate is not for you, then entrepreneurship may be an avenue. I also saw entrepreneurship as a way of being able to solve problems, and I loved that. Who are suited for corporate, and there are people who are a little bit more suited for the entrepreneurship space.
Got you.
And I think that is where someone else would thrive. And so at the time, growing up, I don't think entrepreneurship was something that was prevalent or in your space.
In your space,
right.
Yes.
And for me, I'm a creative. And so when I saw that world where you had to become a lawyer, a doctor, or something else, something that was very structured, it wasn't what I saw for myself. And I thought, well, what do you do? I didn't know about entrepreneurship. I saw people side hustling. I saw people doing a thing, trying a thing, and that didn't entice me. And so I was like, that's not for me. As I grew and I saw where people were actually creating things that were meaningful, that were impacting other people's lives, that were impacting their families' lives, and were allowing people to live their dreams and their passions, that you could be something else. You could take whatever it is that you're passionate about and create a business out of it and do that.
And how do you deal with, your comment on creatives? You're a creative.
Yes.
Does the Branson Centre help the entrepreneur, bring in a CFO or partner with a CFO when, say, the traditional, Jamaica corporate or businessman says a creative can't run a business.
Right.
I'm not going to part ways with my money and give a creative.
Yeah. So we don't necessarily give you a CFO, but we certainly support you to understand that you do need one, and the steps that you need to take to pursue acquiring that person in your business. And yeah, we're absolutely taking, we're industry agnostic. So we're looking at entrepreneurs all across the board, different industries, and how can you take a business model and business practices and grow your particular niche, and that is what we're doing.
So at Branson, you're not necessarily, you're not a private equity fund.
No, we're not.
No, and you're also not saying, we're just going to look at healthcare or
No.
agriculture?
Yeah, no. So we don't look at the particular verticals. As I said, we're agnostic. So we have a 3-pillar approach. We start out with training to get their business acumen at a certain level. Because again, if you're a creative or if you're someone who's starting a business, an entrepreneur, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have business acumen. So we start with training, and then we move into mentorship and coaching, which is critical to support entrepreneurs, keep them accountable to what they say they're going to do and their plans. And then the funding comes in by access to finance.
And how long is a cohort for?
6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 months.
And with what has happened with COVID-19 and the pandemic, is this all done on Zoom now? Is this happening? How is this working now?
Yeah, so absolutely. So when COVID hit, we actually were about to have one of our CEO meetings, and we went online immediately. And right now we're 100% online.
What's a CEO meeting? Like meet Lauri? Or
No, it's our CEOs. So all of the CEOs, businesses that are in our cohort, we bring a business leader, usually a CEO in an established organization, to have a very candid, open discussion with our entrepreneurs. And it was one of our best aspects of the program, because they got to come in and pick everyone's mind.
A real-life CEO.
A real-life CEO is talking to these other CEOs.
And you find, Lauri, you have to pay these people, or you find in Jamaica persons are willing to come in and give up their time, for the goodwill?
People are willing to give up their time, and we're a non-profit. So we have been, a part of what we do depends on these persons giving up their time. But, the great thing about what they're doing and what we're doing is that we want to see entrepreneurs in Jamaica grow. We want the Caribbean grow their businesses so that we can become an even better region. So they have been giving up their time, and we thank them so much for it. It's very important.
And where would you say is your sweet spot? I mean, in Development Bank of Jamaica or DBJ, even I get confused sometimes, what is a SME? There's a VC space, a private equity space.
Right.
But I remember once I had a release that said, the S is like you're doing 0 to 100 million revenues or something like that.
Right.
The M is maybe 100 to 250. I may have it wrong. And then, if you're like the E or whatever the other one is, maybe the L, or large, you're maybe like 425 million or over. Where do you find the majority of your cohort is?
So majority of our cohort are between the S and the M. So they're in the in-between, and that is where we moved to. So when we started in 2011, we were really supporting that 0, some revenue. And as they started to grow into that medium size, at larger scale, small to medium, we recognized that there is a gap where we wanted to move them from the 80 to the 200, right? And so we could support them by giving them additional training, throwing resources at them, and ensuring that we can prepare them to take on investment, take on that equity, so that they can grow to the 200. So our sweet spot was right in that middle place, that entrepreneur who wants to grow and scale their business.
So you actually have businesses coming in now which are doing as much as maybe somewhere between 100 to 200 million in existing revenues?
So between like 80 and 100. So some of them are coming up. Some of them are, less, like 30 million going up to the 100.
And do you find that's like the CEO ideology? Like in your shoes, is it the Branson ideology, or is it just, like you say your investment partners, they're coming in and just saying, look, for us to realistically look at this, we need you to kind of, tweak your model a little bit also.
Right. I think what happened was, the Branson Center recognized that we're impact-driven, right, first and foremost, and recognizing that there were other players coming up who were supporting entrepreneurs who were in that below 30 revenue threshold. We wanted to support the entrepreneur who was above that, and prepare them for the investment. And the investment is over the 200. So the investors are looking for, an entrepreneur who's built something to the 200 million so that I can really help them. So no one was helping that in between, and who was going to prepare them to pitch to the investors so that they can grow. So it wasn't...
So you do have actually, there are competitors that you found, or say similar models, like over the last 5 to 7 years that have popped up?
No, we have not found very many. So, and that is why it was a sweet spot for us, moving into that space where everyone is concentrating on that, that startup idea, someone being able to grow a business. But just like, many entrepreneurs, they're going to have failures, and it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. And so it's those incubators that are out there who are able to create this pipeline so that you can move those who have validated, they found the idea, it's working, and they need now the help. How do I scale? What do I need to do? And so we found that entrepreneurs at that level, we're becoming a lot more efficient operationally.
That's great.
Yeah. So.
And the investment partners that come on board.
Yeah.
That we mentioned. Is it that did they give you funds and then you kind of oversee them, manage them, or
No.
is it like if there's persons or companies in your cohort that are, let's say, attractive enough to them, then there's some relationship or referral program?
Yeah. So what we did was we created a little group of our own with all of these partners that you mentioned, and they were each willing to invest, up to $1 million in entrepreneurs.
Wow. Okay.
To support, the growth of this economy. And what we do is prepare the entrepreneurs to pitch to them. So we don't monitor the funds, we don't oversee that. We simply prepare the entrepreneurs and put them in front of these, this capital that they can come together. So we are like that bridge.
And have you had a few successes, or has some funds been kind of deployed in some of your mentorship?
Some funds have been deployed, not necessarily through our deal room, but inevitably our entrepreneurs go on to get investment, and so that is absolutely a success for us.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
That's good. And we take another break on Business Live Extra. We're talking to Lauri-Ann Ainsworth, a woman focused on developing entrepreneurs for the future. More when we return.
Covering the football universe, from local heroes to the galaxy of stars. Football GPS with Orville Higgins. This and every Tuesday at 9 p.m. on CVM TV, your station for sports.
Mom?
We bring you the history makers, record breakers, and the prominent leaders across the various sporting disciplines.
There's always something new.
From the field to the court, on the track, and so much more to satisfy your sporting needs. Come journey with us on Talking Sports every Thursday night, live on CVM TV at 9 p.m.
Welcome back to Business Live Extra. We're talking to the Branson Center CEO, Lauri-Ann Ainsworth. 2020 is a difficult year as a COVID-19 pandemic creates a crisis likely to lead to lasting change. It comes as we're in the throes of the fourth industrial revolution, which is basically about applying digital technology to our world to make our lives and work more efficient. Economists and analysts are transfixed on the future of work and jobs of the future. There is some fear and trepidation about the number of jobs and industries that are likely to be lost. Here in the Caribbean, there is great optimism over promising new sustainability and green energy industries. This includes the blue economy, which focuses on ocean resources for economic growth, job creation, and ocean ecosystem health. Let's hear more about what the Branson Center is doing to develop these exciting new industries. Lauri, welcome back. Man, you're educating me today. That's for sure. So this blue ocean strategy, I mean, I've heard about the book before and everything, but what is all this, blue ocean about?
Well, so the blue economy is basically us supporting entrepreneurs who are helping the health of our oceans, right? And this came on the heels of Hurricanes Irma and Maria.
Okay.
It came and it wiped out a lot of countries in the Eastern Caribbean, particularly the British Virgin Islands, where we had our headquarters, a lot of our entrepreneurs' businesses went to zero at that time. People lost homes. Our founder's home was destroyed there. I know a lot of people know about that. But on the heels of that, we as a group, we're under the Virgin Group, we're very interested in climate change and being climate resilient. And here we live on an island, right? We're surrounded by water, and we felt like we needed to do something about it. How are we going to contribute to what's happening with climate change, with our oceans? And so we decided to start a Blue Economy program where we were searching for entrepreneurs who were doing things to support the health of our oceans. And as such, we started this program last year, and were able to bring on entrepreneurs who were supporting with marine life, who were supporting...
Can you give us an example of like a company or maybe an entrepreneur?
So one of our entrepreneurs is supports cleaning up harbors, right?
Okay.
So another one of our entrepreneurs who we just recently went out again with our Yadi divers, and they are marine biologists who are supporting with ecotourism, taking persons on tours with their boats toing diving, but also educating them on coral and marine life and why it is that we need to protect it. And during those eco tours, they're helping to clean up the oceans, and part of it is them taking plastic out of the oceans, etc., so that we can have a thriving marine life. And so those are some of the entrepreneurs that we have in the program, and those are the ones that we wanted to focus on with our only vertical that was specialized, being the Blue Economy.
Okay.
And we put them through the same program where they got training in business development, operations, finance, leadership, etc., paired them with mentors. They got a 4-member advisory board so that they could start learning about governance, supporting them to pitch for investment, or a grant rather.
And you found there was a handful of companies like this? Or
a handful.
Okay.
Yeah, a handful. So the industry wasn't as mature as other industries. So we definitely had entrepreneurs who were coming in at an earlier stage in our Blue Economy program, earlier than our scale-up entrepreneurs. And we were fine with that because as I said, we're impact driven, and we want to help to build that that industry. So,
and are some of those businesses, between that same kind of 80 million, 100 million barometer, or these are really startups?
They are startups.
Okay.
Revenue, so they're in revenue, but they are starting. So they're in their early phases, and that's why when we were doing our call for applicants, we realized we were getting a lot of those entrepreneurs. We were searching for the scale-ups, but we didn't find the scale-ups. I'm sure there are entrepreneurs in the Blue Economy who are at that stage, but there weren't very many. So we were supporting those who are in the first startup stages, yeah.
And is it just things related to the ocean, as the word says, or is there other, other sectors? Is there environmental sectors? Are there other things that fall into this?
Yeah, so I mean,
phrase.
Yeah, so it falls into they're very different types of Blue Economy entrepreneurs who will eventually lead into supporting the ocean. So one of our entrepreneurs does, teaches swimming and is creating ocean lovers. And so they're creating that ability for persons to go into the ocean, and they will further transfer those persons over to the marine biologists who will help them to start cleaning up the ocean. And we have other entrepreneurs who are in our program who are on water conservation, which inevitably supports our oceans. So there are different ways in which our entrepreneurs are supporting that industry, and they all look different, so.
Besides, what else are you bullish on? The actual book talks about going into, sectors or economies that are just wide open, besides just the ocean or marine life. What sectors would you say you're bullish on as Lauri or Branson Center? Either or.
Yeah.
But especially now with all these companies either pivoting, changing their business model, technology happening.
Right.
We saw McDonald's recently. 90% of their business in the second quarter was all drive-through.
Yeah.
So what's happening with your current cohorts? Are people changing drastically? And what are you bullish on?
Yeah, I mean now is just a totally different time. Being COVID, this pandemic, etc. And we recognized a while back that we needed to start preparing our entrepreneurs for the fourth industrial revolution, meaning, we have to start utilizing technology to support the growth of our businesses, and we have to look at doing business in a different way. So I wouldn't say it's a particular industry, but it's how are we what are we doing to support those in the various industries. And for me, utilizing technology and digitizing what we're offering.
Is it as basic as saying, have a website for your business, be on Instagram, jump on social media, or is it taking it a bit further than that?
It's taking it further. So, when you talk about digitizing your business, it's how do you use technology to enable what you're doing. So you become tech enabled, and that means, are you utilizing, let's say, even if you're using a website, it's not just a website to just say, hey, I have a website, but are you actually using that website to fulfill orders, or are you using that website for customer service and to create a pipeline of customers? And that gets back to more of the digital marketing, which is a huge thing now. So you talk about social media, it's not just being on social media, it's how are you actually using that as your sales funnel, as your pipeline to move people in. But when we talk about digitizing your business, how can you take what you're doing in person and create an online offering or something that is digital so that you can scale your business, right? So it's utilizing different tools and platforms, or using, project management tools to support you to be more efficient in your operations. So when we talk about digitizing and fourth industrial revolution, it's how are you using technology to optimize what you're already doing. And COVID has forced us into that. People are now remote working. People are now utilizing technology where you're saving on driving to the office or driving, across town to have a meeting with someone. Instead, the technology is supporting with that. And even, being able to interface with your customers in a different way, and using, chatbots, etc., artificial intelligence that's going to support you where, you don't have to have a huge customer service team maybe, So there's different ways that we can use the technology.
So but let's say if you're in your, war room or collaborative room at Branson Center, and, and you're just thinking about, if one said they're bullish on, let's say, healthcare and logistics right now and pharmaceuticals and just, some vertical of food. Is there something that you'd say Lauri is bullish on, or Branson Center now, just say during COVID or post-COVID?
Well, Lauri is, I'm bullish on wellness. I absolutely love wellness, and, it's part of me. And I think it's important now, how are we optimizing our well-being so that we can become better leaders? And I think that's important for everyone. So those who have businesses that are supporting other people to be their best selves is something that I in particular am very interested in. From the Branson Center's perspective, we're industry agnostic. If you are an amazing entrepreneur, you have a good business model, we want to support you. More so if you're an amazing entrepreneur. And that's what we were looking for, because people who are coachable, people who have the right attitude and do have a proven ability to grow something, those are the ones we wanted to work with. So,
do you get a certificate when you finish the 6 months?
You do. You do get a certificate.
That you've completed?
That you've completed the Branson Center's program.
And what happens, say worst case scenario, say I was an entrepreneur, I came in, I had this brick and mortar business, and all of a sudden, my life depended on it. I need $1 million or 2 million Jamaican to pivot to e-commerce, website, a delivery car. Do I come to Lauri or Branson Center and say, connect me with a high net worth, or, give me a bank reference, or what? Walk us through. I mean, how does that kind of process work to, try and, I don't know use the word, save the business, but especially now with COVID, to give this guy or girl some liquidity?
Right. So, so when COVID hit, our entrepreneurs are facing those same issues. Yeah. And so we had to pivot ourselves. Okay. And so instead of accelerating entrepreneurs, we were recovering. We were helping them with recovery planning. Okay. And so, to your question, can an entrepreneur come in and say, can I get $1 million to help me? Branson Center doesn't have that to give you, but certainly what we do have are the connections and the resources, the network that we will point you in the right direction and support you. So when COVID hit and majority of our entrepreneurs were facing issues, we surveyed them and we went deep into what all of these common issues were and how we could support. And so we decided to create a new program that would support them in those efforts.
Okay. And what do you see as the biggest issues, pre-COVID? And we'd love to hear, post-COVID or now. Right, yeah. But what do you see as the biggest issues for these, whether it's SME size entrepreneurs or these entrepreneurs? I mean, is it mentoring? Is it liquidity? But what are the biggest issues that they're facing in Jamaica?
So funny enough, everybody thinks it's the liquidity. Everybody thinks, cash, I need capital. And that's not what we were finding. What we were finding is that entrepreneurs needed to understand how to build a team. Team was one of the biggest things that they needed support in, because we had entrepreneurs who were able to grow a business to here, and they needed to move to the next level, and they needed to understand how a team was going to play a role in doing that. Team and operations. And what we found was that pre-COVID, when our entrepreneurs were accelerating, in the scale-up phase where they were making the most progress is in their profit. They were becoming more profitable versus growing revenue, because they were becoming more efficient with their operations. They were understanding how to be better leaders. They were understanding how to actually grow a team that was going to help them to grow a business. So we found that that was their major challenges. We definitely had a target outcome of investment, because once they were able to create all of that, once they were able to really understand their business, optimize, become more efficient, become more profitable, then capital would support them to grow, right? Mm-hmm. So that is the issue that we found with our entrepreneurs pre-COVID. Post-COVID, everyone is losing revenue. People have to cut back because it's been such a drastic change.
Are receivables a problem that you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or not as much?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's one of their challenges, and supporting them to understand how they manage that, how you manage, your customers, how you communicate. Hey, we need to collect on this. Can we make provisions so that we can support you? Because everybody is going through the same problem, and that's a challenge right now. It's not that this industry is crashing or this industry is having a problem. The entire world. So, you having to collect money is going to be a problem because the other person can't collect money too. Mm-hmm. So we took an approach where we looked at 3 pillars: strategic planning, finance, and marketing as big things to support them.
Okay.
Looking at how do you plan for various scenarios that are going to come up, because this is such an unknown period of time, right? What do you look for, and how do you prepare yourself and your business? How do you look at your finances on a weekly basis, receivables, and where do you need to cut strategically so that you're not being too reactive, mm-hmm. but you're actually being strategic and understanding, here's where my business is now, here's what's happening in the economy, and here are the potential outcomes. How do I prepare for each of them? So that's what we supported our entrepreneurs on. And then the last one being marketing, which was one of the number one things that our entrepreneurs are asking for. It comes back to the whole fourth industrial revolution. How do I put my business in front of my customers again? Because we're all at home, right?
Yes.
And so understanding how to digitize your business, some of our entrepreneurs needed to pivot their offer so that they could support.
And Lauri, do you do that, or the Branson Center do it at like almost a group level, where you do it for, say if you had 7, do you do it for all 7 through the center to help minimize their costs, or you're just trying to help them indirectly?
So it's a dual approach. So what we took in this recovery planning is we support all of them, and we have individual coaches that can do one-on-one. So individual businesses and their specific needs and idiosyncrasies, etc., they would be able to support with.
Great. And we take another break on Business Live Extra. We'll speak more about supporting entrepreneurs for the future with Branson Center CEO Lauri-Ann Ainsworth in just a moment. Welcome back to Business Live Extra. We're talking to Lauri-Ann Ainsworth, CEO of the Branson Center. Much of her time is focused on helping small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, navigate the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. It has moved to online delivery of services. This includes online training and support in finance, strategic planning, and marketing. And it's developed a series of webinars aimed at its business leaders focused on recovery, resilience, and growth. Let's hear more with Lauri-Ann Ainsworth. Lauri, you mentioned about online delivery.
Yes.
Is that just as simple as saying you've moved the center and the entrepreneurs to use in Zoom or WhatsApp video, or
Yeah.
what do you mean by you've shifted it to online?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, we had a hybrid approach where we had a virtual platform where we delivered some of our content as supplementary to our workshops and our in-person experience. And so moving online does mean exactly what you said. We moved to that kind of Zoom video conferencing where we're delivering all of our workshops via those video conferencing channels. All one-on-one coaching is being taken place via, Zoom and Google Hangout, GoToMeetings, whichever one. And so that experience is now completely virtual.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does that have, we've seen a couple entrepreneurs or let's say offices give up their office space.
Yeah.
I mean, is Branson Center actually saying to itself, should I give up my office space as well, or you're not there yet?
Yeah, we're not there yet, but I think like most businesses, that's a question that you have in the back of your head, right? We were on lockdown for about 4 months. So we did go remote, and the good thing again about the Branson Center is that we had already started to have that kind of remote working experience for our team members. So we were used to using technology to interact, collaborate, and run our business. And so it was very smooth sailing for us once this pandemic hit. And it showed us a lot of things. It showed us that we can run our program 100% online. It was something that we were considering when trying to move into the region. As Caribbean people, we love interaction. We love seeing each other and talking. And that was one of our hesitations. But this forced us into it. And so now we are delivering our program successfully, and we're getting a fantastic response from our entrepreneurs. And so, yeah, definitely something to think about, but we're not there yet.
And, Jamaican tourism leaders may have said June, then it got kind of pushed back to hopefully things start really revving up September, October, and now it even looks like January next year.
Yeah.
What's your outlook for when Jamaica hopefully starts to normalize re-COVID?
Well, I wish I brought my crystal ball with me so I could.
I saw you looking around for it, which is good.
So I could tell you that. I have no idea, Mark. I really don't, because we're seeing this spike over in the U.S. now, right? We're seeing where numbers are going up around the world, and that inevitably affects us here. So I don't know what the outlook is. I'm very optimistic and I'm hopeful, but I think that what's important is that we continue to move forward with that optimism and look for the best, and be strategic and think about those scenarios.
How are you handling the role of CEO of Branson Center with COVID? And your predecessors, you had well known, I mean, Lisa Epstein, started it.
Right.
Lysandra Rickards, both Harvard alums.
Yeah.
Got the thing rolling, but all during good times, booming times. You've come in crisis management, one may say.
Yes, certainly, it's been very interesting times, and I think that everything happens for a reason, and no doubt my path brought me here to be where I am now. And I think my wellness journey and me being grounded in who I am and understanding how to manage my time, how results oriented I am, and I can do that without overly stressing myself. No one is without stress. So it has helped.
Are you having to inspire or put some confidence also into the cohorts?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And interestingly enough, when I took over, every leader wants to ensure that they put their stamp on what they're doing. And when I came into this role, I wanted to bring me to the role as well, understanding that what these two ladies had done was phenomenal and build on top of that. So I wanted to introduce...
It's your time now.
Yeah, it's my time. And I wanted to build on top of that, not change. But I wanted to bring wellness to entrepreneurs because they are going through a lot, right? And even before COVID, just running a business, being responsible for people and, this new thing that they were doing, not necessarily new, but being in this role of CEO, it's stressful. So I wanted to bring that to them. I wanted to bring more marketing because that was my background, so the wellness and marketing I brought. And funny enough, that's what we needed during COVID. So COVID hit, and absolutely our entrepreneurs wanted that kind of they wanted that kind of support. How do I cope? How do I manage? How do I lead a team when I'm worried myself?
So have you actually implemented any things like, they're going to the gym, or maybe they're going for jogs, or any components of wellness into the program at all, or is it just more encouragement that put this into your, no matter how busy you are, put this into your lifestyle as well?
Yeah. So it's trying to. So when we started, we would have loved to have incorporated more of that kind of, physical wellness there. But of course, COVID, we couldn't do that. And so we did start to implement it more with mindset work and, how to take care of yourself as a leader and how to inspire your team to take care of themselves. How can you be more efficient in running a team remotely so that you're holding people accountable, not stressing out yourself and not stressing out your team. All of that is a component of wellness. Wellness is, not just the physical, it's the mental and it's psychological as well. So all of those components were put into the program via various webinars and support that we've been offering.
And Lauri, the other side of the equation, in your very unique role, how do you handle, you listen to a lot of corporate businessmen or business ladies, and they say, well, the young entrepreneur just wants instant gratification and they don't deserve it. How do you, handle that kind of criticism or maybe that comment, in a big boardroom?
In terms of the entrepreneur?
Yeah, that, they just want this in a year.
Okay.
And, they need to put in time. They need to go and work 10 years somewhere and then wheel and come again. Does a young entrepreneur deserve that? Or should they get ahead early?
Yeah.
How does a Branson Center, maybe even you, kind of address that?
Right. So, I'm not of the view that, I struggled, you have to struggle. But I do appreciate experience. And, I think going back to our first segment, a lot of the entrepreneurs who have come through the program have been persons who have gone through that, because we're seeing older persons entering the Branson Center in their late 30s and 40s. And so you don't have that very young. But, I think that when you do have those very young entrepreneurs who do want to just make it and so forth, do they have the right coaches who are going to help ground them? Do they have the right direction to support them? And I don't think that we should clip anyone's wings. If someone's prepared to fly and they're ready to fly, then maybe it's their time to fly.
Then let them get going.
Fly, right. But I think they need to have the right team around them, the right support system that can help keep them level-headed.
And you mentioned earlier about entrepreneurship. It's a buzzword now. So like say if you're in a bank, and a resume comes in and, boom, it just says, this person's an entrepreneur and they're 25.
Yeah.
And let's say it's not viewed favorably by HR. Do you think that's something that needs to start changing in Jamaica? Because a lot of young persons view themselves as entrepreneurs, as you said.
Yeah.
But, somebody might get that CV and say, whoa, this person's like crazy. Like, they didn't have a job or something. But, but now you go out and somebody says, you say, what do you do? And they're like, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So it has changed, to your point.
It has changed. I think it both sides. So in other words, there are people who are hiding behind that word. I'm an entrepreneur, and they're doing the same thing, not seeing results and not recognizing when it's time to shift and move into something else. So there are those people that still exist who will continue to give that word or prescribe that definition to that word. But there are those who, as I said, are entrepreneurs. That's where they need to be. They need to be able to create, they need to see the problems, fill the gaps. And I think that we have to change as a culture, as the mindset has to shift, that entrepreneurship is not a bad word. Right. Entrepreneurship does not mean a lazy person who doesn't want to do anything or who just has lofty ideas. So definitely I think there needs to be a shift in that mindset.
And when you think about it, Branson Center is as independent as you can get in Jamaica, right? A lot of business persons, financial houses, everybody is a bit fearful because you don't want to be attacked or victimized, and even other business persons. Is there a rule? Persons still complain to this day that they cannot get access to money.
Yeah.
Even if it's 200,000 US, 50 million Jamaica, and they just can't get access to money for whatever the reason is. And COVID has shown that more than ever. I mean, if you look at the microfinance profits, they're way down. Yeah. There's credit crunches coming, some may say. Some, many different comments, even on food, lots of stuff. Is there a rule now, you think, whether it's DBJ, NIF, where there's tons of government surpluses, that there should be funds put into, whether it's a sovereign fund or a proper SME fund to be managed by an independent group?
Absolutely. I mean, the truth of the matter is that entrepreneurship is what's going to help to boost the economy again. Entrepreneurship is what, spurs any economy, and that is why the Branson Center is doing what we're doing, because we want to see more transactions happening. We want to see more deals happening, because that means that our economy is thriving. And when we support,
Why do you think we're not seeing it yet in Jamaica?
I think that we still, we're very risk averse. I think right now, and I mean, we've seen that at the Branson Center. We have some amazing entrepreneurs that go through, our program and get to the deal room or get to other deal rooms, and there is an aversion to risk amongst the investor community. And I think that what we are trying to do, and what we were trying to do pre-COVID, is bridge that gap where there can be that trust between an entrepreneur and an investor, as well as mitigate those fears that investors have with the risk. So I think it's a coming together of everyone, entrepreneurs understanding that they play a role, and it's not just, I've built this great business, come and throw your money at me, but that, hey, I'm willing to work, I'm willing to do what it takes to help grow and really build themselves, so the investors can say, I want to invest in that person, and I trust and I believe them, and for the investors to come to the table prepared to support that entrepreneur's vision, and so that they too can trust them. So the industry still has some growing to do and some more maturing to do, and just they're coming together of two ends, and I think that is a challenge right now.
Do you find your entrepreneurs or your cohorts, you're one of the best persons to speak about it, do they take it really hard when they are not successful, do you find, or if they have a loss, unlike in the US maybe, an entrepreneur might have 9 losses. They might even have 7, might get 2 or 3 wins, but culturally that's still an issue here. How bad do they typically take it?
Well, it's a mix. Some of them do take it hard because they've been doing a lot of work preparing, and a lot of entrepreneurs who are building businesses here are doing it because it's their passion. They're not just building something to spin out. Some of them are. So there is a lot of passion, there's a lot of pride there that the entrepreneurs have, and so when they go in and they expect an outcome and that's not what they wanted, initially, absolutely, they feel bad about it. I think in the long run, though, they are glad for the experience, they grow from the experience, and they most times are able to move on to something that is better for them, better suited for them. So yeah, I mean, we're not Silicon Valley. We don't have the same kind of setup that they do over there. We're shifting our culture, even allowing entrepreneurs to fail here in the Caribbean is something that we have to rally around more, because somebody says, hey, I'm starting up a business, and then you find out that it failed. Oh no, you don't want people to know that you failed, when that is something that we should embrace, because it allows them to go ahead and create something else, create the next thing, because they needed to learn something in this venture or this idea to move to the next stage.
And you feel you've made progress?
Yes.
The center has made progress?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your favorite space? The startups, the small, the mid-size, the large?
Me personally,
where you get the most passion?
Personally, I love the startup space.
All right.
Yeah.
We like it.
Yeah.
Laurie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You're putting in the work. We like it.
Thank you.
That's it for another edition of Business Live Extra. Remember, business only has 2 functions, marketing and innovation. We've been talking to Lauri-Ann Ainsworth, CEO of the Branson Center Caribbean. Don't forget, you can watch us online at cvmtv.com/business. Thanks for joining us.
About COVID-19, what are the symptoms of someone infected with a coronavirus?
It depends.